the table.
Can I get promoted real quick? Wasn't sure if Councilmember Washington was going to be joining us remotely or not joining us.
Not joining us.
Okay. Well, he did ask that I chair, so I'll just ask my fellow council member if that's all right.
Please.
Okay.
Is this a committee of one?
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay. Well, two, yes. So it is 6:01. So I will call the February 20th, 2024 meeting of the Community Development Committee to order. And we'll note the attendance. Myself and Councilmember Watton are present, along with the mayor and city administrator. And also that Councilmember Benson is in attendance in the audience. Councilmember Washington has asked to be excused, so if there's no objection, we'll excuse Councilmember Washington.
So moved.
All right, then we'll consider him to be excused. That takes us to the agenda approval. Any changes desired for the agenda?
All good.
And we'll adopt the agenda as shown. We do not have any members in attendance for public comment online that I see. And any members of the public here want to come forward and speak? Council members and staff are members of the public, of course. If they wanted to, they're welcome to. Okay, seeing no one stepping forward, we'll close public comments, and that takes us to the minutes. And just double check one quick thing. Okay, I don't have any changes to the minutes. Anyone else? No? Okay, anyone being one other person?
Do not.
Okay, then we'll consider the minutes to be adopted as well. Then we have one item for discussion tonight, and that is AB 24-025, proposed amendment to SMC Title 15 Building and Construction. And I assume that will be Community Development Director that will lead us off on that discussion.
yes. Good evening, council members. Today you have before you an ordinance update, code amendments to adopt the 2021 building code. The proposed ordinance amends the Snoqualmie Municipal Code, chapters 1504A and 1504B, and adopts by reference the 2021 International and Uniform Codes as adopted and amended by the State Building Code Council. So this is a routine building code update. There are some significant changes that are highlighted down below under the analysis, including new state energy codes. You may have noticed that earlier this afternoon, we sent a PowerPoint presentation that was done in our neighboring jurisdiction from the city of Duval, which provided a lot of in-depth analysis over the existing code and the new code that's coming forward. I hope you found that helpful, but really this is your opportunity to discuss these amendments as we prepare for forwarding on these amendments to the city council at the next city council meeting. That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. Questions from the committee? I was just wondering if there were any particular items that you wanted to highlight that were of particular significance.
I could, yes, just a second.
Would you like me to do one?
Sure.
Sure.
Okay.
City administrator.
So one of the most contentious parts of this are the new energy regulations. There was a lawsuit filed by builders and the gas industry to block their implementation, and they succeeded in getting them delayed till now. But back in August of 2023, the industry went ahead and dropped their lawsuit. So paving the way for this action to happen. This will push more electric devices, less fossil fuel devices, so heat pumps, etc. It does affect home non-commercial swimming pools where they will be required to have electric heat. Well, they're not required to have heat, but if they do a heater, they're required to have electric heat. Commercial pools will still be able to put in gas heat just because the amount of volume and the efficiency, it's just not there. So there's also additional insulation requirements. You know, they're just pumping all the energy efficiency up.
I was just going to say, some of these amendments related to the energy code changes have to do with issues that are happening at a global level, like climate change. And Washington State's no different. I mean, you will be seeing climate change element coming forward through the Planning Commission as part of the comprehensive plan. And here you also see it with an attempt to plan for and meet greenhouse gas emissions and new targets set by the state. So some of these construction codes are aimed to provide increasingly energy efficient homes and buildings that help achieve a broader goal of building zero fossil fuel greenhouse gas emission homes and buildings by the year 2031. So
Well, thank you. That was my main question, was just what the highlights were. And I was interested in the energy code, so I was going to ask that as the follow-up. Mr. Watton, anything else?
No, the slide deck is actually quite helpful because it comes with the pictures. To go
yes,
with
it does. It's very helpful.
But it's kind of interesting, some of the elements that are included. You know, there's a lot of safety things. I also find it kind of interesting that garage doors have to have a permanently affixed label, which I know mine have one, but it fell off. And I really question it when we have windstorms of the magnitude we've had in the last couple of weeks, because the garage door seems like it's supposed to be insulated. Is it really insulated? So, you know, it's kind of some kind of make sense things, but also I find a little bit of humor too.
Yeah, there is an increase in the R values. I mean, if you are studying your ICP, you need to know what those are. But here in one of the slides, it also says, hey, R values in insulation have been increased. So.
Yeah, there's also an interesting little bit about attics and what counts as being a habitable attic, and yeah, just interesting stuff. It's a fun read, but it does sound like it's kind of a cleanup thing, that these are codes that we essentially need to adopt anyway. Okay, so there is a proposed, not action that we would take, but a proposed next step, which would be to move this item to the February 26th and March 11th council meetings, so that we can have the first and second readings. Being this is a committee, we don't necessarily need to have a full motion and a vote and all that, but I think that would be a good idea. I think that this makes sense to move forward to council. So if there's no disagreement, then
I concur.
Charge forth bravely. Okay. Yes, Ms. Arteche.
Just wondering if the committee would agree or would like to see the slide deck also included as an exhibit, so that you know the rest of the council could have the full enjoyment of seeing these minute changes.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
That'd be great.
Okay, I thought it was a great slide
And,
deck. So
yeah, as long as these are all, this is a public document.
it was
created by
it was already
Duval.
presented publicly at the city of Duval. Yeah.
Just want to make sure that we weren't, I don't know, infringing on copyright or some sort.
No, they were graciously offered to provide it for our benefit. So
Excellent. Okay, then that is the last item, Mayor.
So there is a deadline, is that correct? Do
Yeah.
we have to adopt it by mid-March?
oh no, we'll have it adopted by the 15th.
Right, but just point out that there is a deadline so that we can't move it
Mhm.
if the agenda gets packed or something, so.
Yeah,
Okay, so this is somewhat high priority.
yeah. Well, would it be something that could be considered for consent agenda since we're essentially just changing the year from 2018 to 2021?
I think that sort of for the first reading, I don't think we can. but maybe
No, not for the
second
first
reading.
reading, but for the
Yeah.
second.
Is that is consent allowed for an item like this? If it is, then I'm
We
fine with
could
that.
double check with David.
It just would have. Oh, yes, if it's an
It
ordinance.
was in the ordinance section.
Right.
Councilor one.
I would
We can.
prefer it not to be on
Okay.
consent, even if we move through it quickly,
Okay.
just so that there's public view. And a brief presentation.
Yeah, definitely at our next meeting, we should have
Okay.
a brief presentation. I totally agree with that. Okay, then that was the only item. If there's nothing else for us, then we get to have a short meeting tonight. Without objection, we'll consider ourselves to be adjourned at 6:11. Thank you all for being here.
Wow.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Okay.